New videos every day. Life, wisdom.
My first question is, can chiropractic help with depression? And is taking antidepressants something that you would recommend for people who've experienced depression?
Well, let me take those in the order that you gave them to me.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Okay.
If chiropractic can help. And one of the reasons I say that, if you look in the book Gray's Anatomy, which is the book that all medical doctors use for, to graduate from school, there's a chart in there, and it says the effects of spinal misalignments. Now, if you look up at the top where the brain stem actually extends down into the spine, if that area is misaligned, it's going to put pressure on very sensitive cord area of your spinal cord. And one of the effects of that can be depression and nervous breakdowns.
Wow.
So, if you think about it, if somebody was stepping on your brainstem, that could probably bum you out a little bit, or cause you a lot of anxiety that you really didn't need to be there. So that can be one of the reasons that people get. Now, of course, some people have been through major traumas or had terrible life experiences, and those kind of things need to be addressed and dealt with in a professional way. But oftentimes when people are having these kind of issues, they may not realize that that's what's causing the problem.
Right. And that's very interesting that, oftentimes when we consider depression or other mental health issues, I guess you could say, we think in terms of kind of isolating the brain. And what we learn from the television ads is that a chemical imbalance in your brain is the cause of depression. And that's just kind of the end all be all. And not only on this channel have we shown that actually there is no physical evidence of this so-called chemical imbalance to speak of, or evidence that these are biological diseases that are causing these mental health issues. But that actually, when you look in this Gray's Anatomy reference that so many doctors and, of course, medical professionals are so accustomed with, actually just these misalignments in the spine could be contributing to, like, as you mentioned, depression or anxiety. Sure.
That's definitely one possible reason.
Right. So let's go back to just briefly touching on antidepressants. Are antidepressants safe? Is that a safe way to handle depression?
Well, when you look at the box of antidepressants, it stands out in big bold letters there in a big black box, and it says that the use of this product can cause suicidal thoughts and homicidal ideation, which means that, it may make you more prone to killing yourself or somebody else. And unfortunately, with these drugs have been rampant in our society. They're prescribed over the counter, just like you'd prescribe somebody an aspirin. Instead of, helping the person to deal with the issues, they're just giving them these pills. And if you look at all of these different shootings that have taken place, in the last few years, all of these people are on those medications. So, which really leads credence to why that says that on the label, be careful.
Certainly, if you're feeling depressed, why would you want to take a drug whose potential side effect is something significantly worse than depression?
That's true. And there's been some studies that have shown that the effects of the positive effect, these psych drugs, can be really attributed a lot to placebo effects. But unfortunately, they're very toxic. So, they've given people sugar pills, and they've got a lot better. They felt a lot better. But unfortunately, these are actual real drugs. They're not sugar pills, and they do have toxic side effects.
Right. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the toxic side effects of an antidepressant or antipsychotic medication?
Well, a lot of the reports that I've read show that they all do cause brain damage, actual damage to the brain. There's some sort of a disconnect that takes place so that the people can oftentimes feel like they're just not as present as they should be, like they're in a video game, or they feel kind of wooden, blocks off their emotions. So it kind of separates the person from that a little bit. The other thing that I've noticed is that these people, they eventually want to get off of these medications. And that can be very tricky because these medications can be hard to get off of. Right. One of my patients, when she starts trying to wean herself off of these drugs, she starts experiencing the same things that led her to get on it in the first place, right, which can make her think that she needs the medication. But actually, that's one of the side effects of the medication, is that when you start to try to get off of it, it can spin you back into fits of depression or anxiety or panic attacks again.
Right. It's just the withdrawal effect.
It's the withdrawal effect from the drug. So in a more holistic approach, we have to be very careful and encourage the person to work with their healthcare professional, their medical doctor, to start weaning them off of those drugs while we're providing really good nutritional support that can help the person, as well as lifestyle changes and things like that.
And wouldn't also another kind of negative health effect associated with those drugs, because these are, man-made chemicals, synthetic chemicals in these drugs, wouldn't that cause a significant burden on your liver and your stomach, your other organs that have to kind of handle, especially for somebody who's taking a drug like this every single day? Wouldn't that create a large burden on your other digestive organs?
I don't really know. I've never really seen any research that shows that it's been a real burden for digestive. But of course, anytime you're putting a toxin in your body, it's not a good thing. I can definitely speak to that with a lot of certainty. As far as long-term effects is affecting your digestive or liver, I've never seen any studies that show that. Although brain damage is enough for me. I think I would just leave it right there.
I think the black box label
and the black box label and the warning
may cause suicide. I think that would be the
plus another side effect that often can happen and is these people can start developing these facial tics where their face will just kind of go into these uncontrollable spasms and things. And it's terrible. You've got this beautiful 25-year-old girl sitting across from you who's been on these antidepressants for several years, and now she's developing these tics. And from what I understand, they're pretty much permanent. So you're really taking a big risk there as well.
Right.
Some of the other symptoms side effects that can take place with this is the person can have disrupted sleep patterns.
Oh dear.
Yeah. It can actually disrupt their ability to dream and not sleep as well. These drugs can actually work on the same pathways as LSD does, which would engender the person to be having different kinds of hallucinations that can take place and that kind of thing.
Wow.
So, there are a whole host of those kind of things that can happen, unfortunately.
So let's maybe go back to discussing how can chiropractic and maybe addressing nutrition, how can these things improve the symptoms of depression or the emotions, the very real emotions that people experience?
Sure.
This is something that people, experience on a very common level. Certainly, we're in no way trying to say that these emotions aren't real or to deny that people experience them. But let's maybe discuss what are some real causes and some real treatments that don't have really horrendous side effects.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The feelings are real. They're definitely there, and they're brought on by a whole host of different things. But there are some natural things that we can do to help people with that. In my practice, I use a combination of removing pressure off of the nervous system, which helps to calm the person down, and then a whole host of nutritional products that we have that really help to calm people down. It may be a combination of things. We have found, and through the research that I've done, and I think you mentioned it earlier, a lot of times people with gut issues, the gut is our second brain. And if it's not working properly, it can definitely adversely affect our number one brain. And it can cause depression and those kinds of things. So when people have leaky gut or have gastrointestinal issues, even if they don't really know that they're having it, it can definitely adversely affect their moods and that kind of thing. So in my practice, I would do a real thorough kind of looking into what's going on with them physiologically. and find out if they're having some food allergies. Oftentimes, that's how I think they discovered LSD, was the wheat kind of got a little mold on it one day, and they were all off to the races after that. So sometimes eating foods that are toxic to us can cause those problems. One of my patients once told me that she had been on a wheat elimination diet and then just forgot and had a piece of pizza. And the next thing she knows, people are asking her what was wrong, or is she okay? Because she was just sitting at the table, like completely zoned out.
Wow.
And it really affected her mentally. She was pretty shook by the whole experience. So sometimes eating those kinds of things. So we'll clean up those kind of problems, help people with their gut. There's all kinds of herbs that we can use to help them get on an exercise program, which will release, the good kind of endorphins into the brain to help elevate the mood. So there's a whole host of different things that we can do.
Right. Well, what about supplementing the amino acids themselves? I've heard of some people that actually have a lot of success taking something like DHEA or L-tryptophan. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is kind of a field that I'm pretty new to, and I'm actually just starting to look into it myself. And there's some companies out there that are making these amino acids, because some people, they're born genetically that they can't even make these acids the way they're supposed to, these amino acids, which can really leave them in a bind. They can't really function the way their brain should. So by supplying these things, it can really, really help. I can only speak anecdotally that I've talked with some other doctors who have treated patients with panic attacks with certain kinds of neurotransmitters, and it's just about the biggest miracle they've ever seen. Just almost overnight, the person has got a new life. So I'm actually starting to look into some of this myself. I'm very excited about it, because we know that giving the body what it needs to be healthy can be really restorative and healing.
Right. And certainly, just to kind of, draw a distinction between when we're taking a nutritive supplement, like a vitamin, something that comes from a food source, it's nutrition is really at the core of it. It's a nutritive supplement. And when we take, L-tryptophan or DHEA or something like that, this is still a nutritive component. These essential amino acids that we need, as compared to the antidepressants that we were discussing earlier, where this is not a nutritive,
not at all,
supplement.
It's actually a toxic ingredient that is going to cause harm in one way or the other. And it's really, I like to offer people an alternative to that.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being with me here today. This was very, very, very helpful.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to click on the like button or leave your comment and let us know. If you'd like to learn more about Dr. Eccles and his practice here in Austin, you can visit jeffeccles.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can join us in all of our future videos. Thank you so very much for watching.